Hello, I'm Martin Mercer.
And I'm James Mastriani.
You've never heard of us.
We're two Brits who grew up in North London and have had varying success in the film and television industry.
In our ever-advancing age, we find ourselves on
the wrong side of Hollywood.
In our series of podcasts, we'll share our experiences of what it's like being a British bloke living and working,
or not,
in the biz.
We'll discuss everything from fish and chips to things that wind us up.
So stay with us, it's all uphill from here.
This podcast may contain strong language. If you're of a sensitive nature or easily offended, we invite you to, as they say in Blighty, jog on.
Martin, my mate Martin, who I grew up with in our neighbourhood in North London and went to school together, both schools.
Yes, Southgate School, as it's pronounced. And we first met in primary school, kindergarten.
Elementary,
my dear Watson. And basically through our shared interests, we started making films, Super 8 films. And at school, as you do, you become characterised. And James became characterised from myself, not anybody else. But that's all that matters, my opinion, in our friendship. But the thing is that this has all sort of brought us together.
Yeah.
This journey. Why are we here?
Right.
This grey, overcast morning in Los Angeles. We literally live 20 feet apart.
Yeah.
And we're here because we're basically on the underbelly, the wrong side of Hollywood. We've had our little tastes of glory.
Yep.
You crawled and clawed your way up very quickly, I have to say, to be an executive at Fox Kids,
Yep.
if anybody remembers those. And I've done things, I was Kevin Spacey's makeup artist on Swimming with the Sharks. I've worked on things such as Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. So we've all had our little sniffs at the underpants of glory, and yet we find ourselves here
in the wrong side of Hollywood, North Hollywood.
And I think the idea was born out of our calling each other Hoff and Prof. Right. And James was called Hoff because back in the 80s there was an advert for Hofmeister beer, and they featured this bear, and there's a guy in a costume, and basically when you looked at it, it was James. He had the same profile, the bearish profile. He had a tiny little hat on his head. He had that kind of triangular shoulders.
I did not wear a hat at school.
No, I know you.
Oh, you're talking about the bear?
Yeah, I'm talking about but so I started calling you Hoffy.
Yeah.
And then one of my experiences was being an actor, a child actor.
That's right.
I became a child equity member, and I was in this fantastic show that no doubt everybody's heard of, called Murphy's Mob.
Brilliant show.
Yes, absolutely dreadful, but nonetheless.
What was the title again?
It's called Murphy's Mob.
And what was your name?
Prof. So
that led on to us talking about Hoff and Prof.
Yeah. And so to share our experience from the underbelly, the trenches, as I call it, of working in Hollywood, and the various experiences, which I think, because basically when you listen to podcasts about Hollywood, it's mainly people who've had absolutely fantastic success at the top of their game. They're directing their first movie, written their first screenplay, so on and so forth. And we've kind of scratched at that and been near it.
Yeah.
I personally think it's fascinating. I think people are interested in people who are not from here. We've come from another country. I know that we share many similar bonds.
Yeah.
And we certainly had a great love of America. Certainly I remember you had come here many times. Your family was involved in America. Your dad was American.
Yeah.
He met your mum, who was Welsh, and
Yeah.
he moved back to Britain. And I think I always saw that love of America from you.
Yeah.
And me, I had my nan who went to Chicago. She had friends there. And so she, as a widow, she decided to do some travelling, and she'd come back with Bazooka bubblegum and Star Wars comics, and that was just amazing. So we've always had that desire to be here.
And now we're here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm grateful. I mean, I've got my family here now.
And we have good friends.
I have good friends, a few. But it is, what were mistakes made? How could one change things? What did you learn by your mistakes?
Well, I was just
and
wondering
I think
if
that's important.
I've always said that the Fox Kids thing happened about 20 years ago. And I always felt like, I peaked when I was 27 years old.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
he peaked with no Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but what's funny about this whole thing is that you talk to people and they're like, I remember Fox Kids and that show was brilliant. Oh, and you were involved with that show? And you're like, yeah, I was. But then at the time...
And then it goes poof.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody's interested in it now, and it's funny the amount of people I've run into, like at L.A.s, like the TSA guy who I'm wearing a Fox Kids t-shirt of some nature, and he's like, I used to watch that network. I said, yeah, I worked for that network. And he was like, oh, no kidding, I grew up with that show. And then I'm like, well, now I feel really old because this guy looks like he's...
Right. And then he was like, bend over.
Yeah.
Gloves snapped on.
Yeah.
No, and I think the difference between American and British humour, and I always, it's always interesting the sort of the buttressing of that, and even with our partners, because you are married to what would you say? I mean, my wife is Chinese American. She came here from Vietnam as a boat person, which is an amazing story. Yeah. So straight away, not only was I a stranger in America as a British lad, and then to be put into an environment when I was the only Gweilo, round eye, white devil.
White devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no, so I've been married before. I'm married to a wonderful lady right now, and she's fantastic and the love of my life. And that's not to say that my ex wasn't a wonderful person.
Oh
either.
my God, James!
But you brought it up, so
I didn't bring that up.
But no, so it's. I'm just saying it's.
God,
it just didn't work out. And
I know, but what we're not talking about your current wife, dear fellow.
Cut that. What are we talking about?
You're just stuttering off down into. We could talk about that. Why didn't it work, James? Come on, let's get down to it.
We were too
what
similar.
Happened?
That's what it was. We were too similar.
And is your present wife listening?
Yes, she is.
But nonetheless, your present wife is of
American
Latin descent. So, and you hate Mexican food.
I don't hate Mexican food.
But you don't like it.
I don't like the stuff in the stores. I like homemade Mexican food. I don't
and
like.
Do you get any of that?
Occasionally. Well, my sister-in-law makes it, and she's fantastic. So I don't complain. I just don't like going out to Mexican food because it all tastes very lardy. Well, I don't like lard.
You don't like lard, and you're English. Now the thing is, that's what an American would say. But the thing, thinking we all love lard, we love cream. But talking of Latin cooking, do you remember? I remember when I was back in Britain, and I used to work at a company called Image Animation. We did makeup effects for Nightbreed, Hellraiser, and all that stuff. And
never heard of it.
We would go out for an Xmas party.
Right.
And one of the places was called Chiquitos.
Yeah.
You remember Chiquitos?
I do remember Chiquitos.
It's this dreadful English version of Mexican cooking.
Yeah.
Now, if you go back to Britain now, you get Chipotle.
Yeah.
But in Britain, my sister calls it Chipotle.
Chipotle, yeah.
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 And she was like, oh, have you been to Chipotle? I was like, Chipotle. What the heck? And then I saw it. I was like, oh, Chipotle.
Yeah,
Chipotle, dear. But that juxtaposition of the dreadful English version of Mexican cooking.
Well, I mean, there was a place in the West End called Break for the Border that was a bar/Mexican restaurant, and musician friends used to play there. And that food, again, I still wasn't impressed.
No.
And that was probably the most authentic Mexican food. I think it was an American company anyway.
But now in our hometown, even in Barnet, there's a burrito place, and it just makes me laugh when I walk past it. And I suppose it's kind of that. I've actually had real Mexican food now. 'Cause I did work in Mexico, and Puerto Vallarta, but nonetheless, it was real Mexican food there.
Yeah.
And the difference is obviously quite. I suppose it's like when Americans attempt fish and chips.
Well, well, that's a whole nother Oprah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I told you that there was a great restaurant on Woodman.
You're right. Now I can hear you now.
and although it's not a British fish and chip shop by any standards, it's more of a Mediterranean food, but it's the best chips I've ever had in this country.
And the whole fry thing, I never get. I mean, it's chips, and then crisps is chips. And I think if you want to stay English, if you are British and you're living in America, you want to stay English. Chips are chips, crisps are crisps, and that's it. As soon as you start saying take the trash out,
Yeah, but you have to assimilate.
No,
you
no,
do.
No,
you have to assimilate at some point because people don't know what you're talking about. It's
but you have to educate you. You have to bring them into our way.
Sure, but sometimes it's harder to do that. It's just easier to go with the flow. No, I was at a gathering last night.
An artist gathering.
It was very nice. And this person came up, we were talking, and he said, I'm really good with accents, so what part of Australia are you from?
Is he joking?
No, he said that. And I said, actually, I'm from London, England. And he said, he goes, I guess you've been here a while then because your accent's kind of...
You sound a bit like this, mate.
Well, not quite. But anyway, so I corrected him, but I said, you're right, I've been here for 28 years.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? And and through those 28 years, you've had your ups and downs, and you're in your down period now.
Well, I mean, hopefully on an upswing a little bit. I was producing anime and stuff like that, and then my mum's health went downhill and went to take care of that, and got out of the business basically for about 5 years, and then the pandemic hit, and then of course by the time I got back to England, a lot of my friends had either moved on to different careers and left the film industry entirely, and so it's like, okay, well, I have no connections anymore. I have a few still, obviously, but and I do some production work every now and then. But
I mean, it's fascinating to see that journey from. I mean, I think if I remember correctly with the Fox Kids things, they not your fault, nobody's fault. They sold it. They sold it to Disney. And then it was like, well, you can either go to Disney or you can take a lump sum.
No, actually, it wasn't even that. It was you can go to Disney or you can. We still need to finish off our season with Fox. We have an obligation for another year, and most of our department from Fox Kids came from Disney.
Right.
And so everybody's like, no, don't go to Disney. Don't go to Disney.
And you listened.
And I listened, and also my boss said, I need a select few people to go over, and would you come and join us at Big Fox, as we used to call it? And we said, yeah, we'll do it, thinking that we would get parlayed into Primetime or something else.
Yeah.
And a year later, we all got canned, and everybody that went to Disney is still there.
Yeah. But you could not have foreseen that.
No.
I mean, there was no... When you think back, was there something that you go, you know what, there was a little clue there was a little something that when that's been niggling away. I mean, you can't do anything about it now, but I mean, I find it fascinating. I think, not to rub salt in the wound, even though that is my job in our friendship, and that is that your assistant is now some massive big egg at Disney, right?
Well, I think he's
you don't
moved
have to
on.
name names.
No, I think that particular person has moved on to other things, bigger and better things, if there is such bigger and better things than Disney. So I mean, he's still happily.
He was your assistant.
He was. We used to share assistants back then, and he
sounds rude.
Yeah, it does sound rude, but no, he was brilliant, and we're still friends, so that's fantastic. But he's not in a position to help unless we're pitching a show.
Right.
And it seems to me that everything that you would pitch is already on the air or has been pitched.
But I'm serious. There's no arse kissing on this show, but on this podcast, there's no arse kissing because I think there is too much of that. And the thing is you want to get to the meat and potatoes of it. Why don't people help? Why? I mean, at the end of the day, because I hear that and I think, why the fuck didn't he help you? He could have helped you, but no. I'll tell you what. Sorry, but I tell you what it is. I think is that there's these divisions. That the whole film industry is this hierarchical sort of construct, and when somebody's got to that level, to look back and help somebody else, it's almost like something they'll catch. They'll catch that kind of failure or unsuccess.
I don't think so.
Think that's a grim appraisal of it?
I think it is. I just think that, people assume that they are able to help anybody else that used to be colleagues get into that. Right. You still have to prove yourself at the interview stage.
No, obviously, but at least give an interview, give a step up.
I think a lot of it has to do with that they are dictated to by their bosses.
Right.
And they are given a mandate of, here's the shows we're doing, that's going to be produced by such and such a company. So it's out of their hands. I mean, it was similar with Fox Kids. I mean, we would either take on shows that were already in production and they had their production company that was making it, or another outside company like Nelvana would come and sell us a show, and then they do it in Canada. So there wasn't that much that, as a network executive, say for Fox Kids, I had any sway on who we hire and fire. We could do that to some degree with the writers that we wanted to use, but it wasn't a case of, I want that producer and that thing. It was like, no, we've got to pull the producers that we use, and that's who we're going to use.
Okay.
So I think that's the same now.
I think you're...
Possibly.
But it is interesting. I was quite chuffed with you when you came over here and I got you a gig on Within the Rock, which was a low-budget science fiction, which, oddly enough, about Within My Rock, now this does lead on to you, Within the Rock, was that it predated the Michael Bay movie,
Yes, it did.
which was called...
Armageddon,
which is about sending miners basically up to an asteroid hurtling toward Earth and having to blow the thing up, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, I love that film. I think it's...
Which one? Armageddon or Within the Rock?
Armageddon.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult choice. No, I think it's one of Bay's really, if he does any good films, this was one of them. This and The Rock, I think, was in his megalomaniacal, mental type of directing style. These two movies are my favourite. And with that one, whose title I've just forgotten again.
Armageddon.
What was it?
The Rock or Armageddon?
Armageddon, yeah.
Right.
So with that one, anyway, Gary Tunnicliffe directed Within the Rock, and his story predated these, oddly enough, and that was
and
kind
he wrote it as well.
And he did write it. So unfortunately, it was low budget, and this is another fascinating story of somebody who was 27, and Gary's not here to speak for himself, and hopefully maybe I can get him to come and talk to us. But,
that'd be fantastic.
But he's 27 years old and directing his first movie. And anyway, you came over from London with
we just moved out, moved over, and you were working on that, and you said, "Hey, I can get you on this. It's unpaid, but do you want to do it?"
Was it unpaid?
Like, yeah.
Oh.
I was like, no. It was
I thought
over here in America, when you work unpaid, it's because you're an intern,
right.
And
that's right.
And so I was brought on as a PA, and it was fantastic. It was really good. And from that, I met a whole bunch of people that I ended up working with for the following 2 years before becoming a network executive. And every gig they went on to, they brought me on.
Right, so you see, that's it, isn't it? I mean, it was just, it's all about timing. Yeah. It's about, you got on this show, I mean, it could have ended, you could have been, what am I going to do now? Yeah. But because you were on set and at a level, with respectfully, you weren't the old codger that you are now, that we are now. And there is ageism. I mean, there's definitely ageism in this business, and in most businesses.
Well, also, I think part of it is, from my standpoint, I'm at an age where it's like, I could do PA work again, just to go, not I want to go backwards, of course, but I could do it if somebody needed help. Yeah. But I don't want to.
No, I don't blame you.
I don't want to. I mean, I'd like to be working, but I don't, and I'll gladly help my friends out. But I certainly don't want to put myself forward as a PA. No,
but nonetheless, it is. I always was amazed at that story. Yeah. I'm getting a bit dry. Have you got to put the kettle on?
I'm going to step away for the mic for a minute. Martin will talk some more.
I brought with me some biscuits, as it happens. Now, these are all the way from Blighty. Waitrose Essential. Rich tea finger biscuits. Now, when... Rich tea finger biscuits. I know, it sounds dreadful, doesn't it? I was on a show called Fastlane. And Fastlane...
I remember that.
Yeah, now that came out before The Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
And Fastlane was a show that was $1 million an episode, which is quite expensive back then. In the night, was it early 2000s, late 90s? No, early 2000s. Noughties, I believe they're called.
Noughties.
In Britain. And so I would entertain my fellow crewmates, because I was storyboarding by that time, and by reading the packet of biscuits. They found it quite amusing. Now, I was going to read this one, but I realised I actually cut off the most interesting part, unfortunately.
Typical.
So, So we can read the ingredients: fortified wheat flour, calcium carbonate, iron, niacin, thiamine, sugar, palm oil, barley.
Palm oil, you see.
All right, malt extract.
A lot of people don't like palm oil.
Oh. Invert sugar syrup, salt, raising agents, sodium hydrogen carbonate, ammonium hydrogen carbonate. It sounds like a list for some sort of nuclear thriller, doesn't it?
So the bottom line is, what does it taste like?
Well, they're very nice. They're dunkable. And now dunking is an art that eludes our American cousins, unfortunately. But they're fingers, you see, so you can dunk your finger in one's tea, as it were. And this apparently contains a percentage of your daily intake. But what I find interesting is they put nutrition here. Now, in America, they do nutrition facts.
Right.
And I always find that interesting. Why in America do they say it as facts?
But it's a fact.
Well, it isn't though, is it?
And also they put the calorific intake for what a portion is. I love these things where it says calories, 150 calories per serving, and then you look down to see what the serving is, and it's like 1.
Oh no, it's like,
and it's like, wait, I just stuffed my face with it.
And it's like half a cupful, and it's like, my God, I put on 2,000 pounds in one sitting. The great thing about it is the packaging. If you do this near the microphone,
that's really irritating.
Sounds like fire. Anyway,
very irritating.
What are we having to drink? Are you going to make me a proper cup of tea?
I'm making you a proper cup of tea in a very special mug.
It's that one. It's that one. Is that the C-U-N-T
No,
one?
No,
it's the W-A-N-K-E-R one.
The wanker mug.
Is that how you spell wanker? I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to know how strong you want it.
I want it builder's strength.
Builder's, all right.
Now, what does that mean, James? Builder's strength.
Builder's strength means when you add the milk, you get a nice dark reddish colour for your tea.
Dark red.
Well, no, it's
not bloody the seventh sign.
No, it's a very dark amber kind of. I'll show.
No, I think what you're meant to say is it's a nice rich tan colour.
Fine.
Basically, you can stand your spoon up in it.
Well, not really.
I think that's what it should be.
You see, the other mug, Karen and James bought me a really good tea mug.
Right.
That actually has the different colours of tea on it, so you can just add milk till you get the right colour.
And this one, of course, has the British Empire runs on tea. And that's the thing, I think, that follows us around. I do worry that when people kind of meet myself and James, they think we're colonising bastards. But we're nothing to do with that, are we? I mean, my family's only been in Britain for a couple of generations, so we're excused.
I'm a dual national. I'm allowed to be here.
That's right. Yes, you're dual national. I am what they call an alien.
You're a legal alien.
I'm not illegal. I'm illegal. Behave. I'm a legal alien. So yes, as you're pouring them in, is that proper milk?
Yes, it is proper.
I tell you, if you've ever been
full fat milk.
When I think of going back to Blighty and I think of a farm, lovely. That is a cracking colour. Right. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to dip a nut. Do you want one of these fingers, James?
No, thank you.
Why?
Because there's no chocolate on it.
Oh, I know. You know what? It sucks because all the chocolate ones my wife gives away as bloody gifts. It's really annoying. I go into my special cupboard and I go, where's the chocolate digestives?
You see,
I gave those away to so-and-so as a gift.
Look, we've got a good pub down the street called the Robin Hood that has the Friar Tuck shop.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
No, they're not cheap, but at least you can get British Tucker in there.
No, at a cost.
But at a...
And I am on the dole, mate. I can't afford these import prices.
Well, then there's Cost Plus World Market.
Well, they're even more expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, but at least they do sell decent digestives.
Right.
Slightly cheaper than the British shop.
Oh, okay. What's your favourite?
Hobnobs.
Chocolate or plain?
Chocolate. And milk chocolate. None of that dark chocolate crap.
Did you read about that dark chocolate?
I sent you the link.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Notice that Cadbury's was nowhere near that list of having cadmium and lead.
No, because this is the weird thing. Now, before coming to America, I mean, it was all Hershey's. And then, in fact, my dad, as a kid during the Second World War, said the GIs would come past and they would just throw all these chocolate bars at the kids and bubble gum and Hershey and so when I first came here and I tried this famous fabled Hershey bar, and it was disgusting.
Yeah,
it was like wax.
I figured it out. I actually looked it up, and the reason why Hershey's chocolate, and we're going to offend a lot of people with this.
No, we're not.
Is Hershey's chocolate is made with carnauba wax.
Why would you put wax in chocolate?
Because it's
disgusting.
Cheap. It's because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Whereas British chocolate or Lindt or what's the other? The Belgian chocolate is made with just
but one of the companies, Lindt,
cocoa,
was on that list.
Yes, for their dark chocolate.
For dark chocolate.
Yeah, not
still
for milk
shocking.
Chocolate. Yeah,
still shocking as things are these days. So we've had this sort of long-term sort of to and fro friendship that has developed, and we've kind of ended up living next door to each other, which I thought was quite an interesting thing, that we grew up in the same neighbourhood, and 35 years later we're 20 feet apart basically. And,
I can't shake him.
No, I can't shake him, but as his landlord. No, but it's funny, isn't it? I mean,
no,
no,
it's quite tedious sometimes.
Well, we'll definitely be cutting that.
No, we won't. No, it's fun actually. We have.
And
our
you're
moments.
not drinking tea.
No, I had a nice cup of coffee this morning, and I don't want to overdo it on the caffeine.
But we've had this relationship, and we made our wives giggle and laugh at these antics. And so we decided to put them together. And as we travel through these podcasts, we'll be interviewing various notables.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be fun. I hope we're not putting anybody to sleep.
Well, this is part of our testing. How to close this out. Because basically...
I'm just going to hit stop.
Well, you could do. That's true. I was going to suggest, here we are, 2023.
Yeah.
I've got maybe a sniff of a job,
right?
And that's not for long. And the whole sort of ocean ahead of like, okay, what the fuck's going to happen, kind of thing. Where do you find yourself?
I've been out of that for so long that I find myself wondering, and I do apply for stuff. I just don't hear. That's the thing I've noticed with, I don't know if it's an ageism thing or whatever.
I think it's employment now. But it's
you
tough.
You go onto their website, you apply for a job, and you don't hear a bean from them at all.
And it's ghosting, isn't it?
It's ghosting.
You've got dating ghosting,
right?
You've got employment ghosting,
and it's been like that for a while. And so a couple of years back, I just decided, you know what, I have to make something. And I teamed up with a bunch of people, as you know, and we made a short film, and it's been in 4 festivals now.
Right. And
we didn't win, but we were in 4 festivals. The thing we want to do now, we've got another script ready to go. We want to find some funding for that, and hopefully dust off my old Jedi mind trick and get people to help us out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is you had that, and we haven't talked about those videos, and we're talking about another time, when you basically went through a whole period of making music videos for your girlfriends. And the funny thing about that is that everybody helped you. It was like, this dude's making these videos to sing, and it's like, I love you, and I'm in this music video with you starring in it, and so on and so forth. And he managed to get all these people to do this stuff for him, myself included.
I do believe
to act like prats.
You were the only person that could moonwalk.
I was back then, but when I was young and fit. But it was fascinating to me, and I think it's quite an incredible story of how you just walked into a pub and you'd ask him. But anyway, it's for another time. That whole Jedi mind trick that you did have, and that is an interesting thing about success and failure. I think the ability to get people to do things for you, to have that personality when you walk into a room and an interview, and somebody's going to make a decision on you in literally, 5 seconds? People make up their mind.
Like that. I don't know, and that's the whole thing about the interviews is I've been out of the game for so long that I'm now second guessing my ability. I know I can do it, and my friends know I can do it, and the stuff that we've edited and shot and whatever, it's clear, it's all there. But when I'm in a position in front of somebody being interviewed, I just completely second guess myself. And I think I am my own worst enemy in that aspect.
Well, I think that's what this would be good for. I think if we can pull you out of the murk of that second guessing, and I'm a bit more used to speaking, and I'll tell you why, because...
You're an actor!
Oh, I was a thespian in the olden days, and let me tell you about that in another episode. But I think it's very important to completely lost myself now. I was so carried away doing that voice. That's it. We've lost all train of thought. But I am used to speaking more, because even in my job of doing storyboards, we have to pitch.
Yeah, you have
Storyboarding
to pitch.
is not just sitting in a... People think you sit in a corner like a comic geek and draw pictures.
Yeah.
You're actually there doing script and pitching scenes.
Yeah.
So you have to step up in front of these people and pitch a scene. Working on 300, the sequel, which honestly was a dreadful film. I hate to say it, probably never work again, but oh well. But the director was a lovely bloke. I really liked him. Why did I like him? Because he gave me a bit of praise. And the praise he said to me was like, you're a good storyteller. Wasn't you a good drawer, good artist, good storyteller? And that's what storyboarding is.
Right.
But it is about communicating. So I'm more used to it, I think,
Sure.
than you are. You know, and hopefully, hey, maybe this podcast is about just, as I say, dragging you out of the bush.
Well, I don't want to be all about that.
No, it's not about
We've got to have a
it's
grumble.
part of. Well, you have a grumble, and grumbling is a very important part about it's the meat and bones of our existence.
Yeah.
Now, that I do have these struggles with her indoors, the wife, because she takes it too seriously sometimes, and I think that's another podcast about communication with partners, certainly if you're from different cultures and different countries.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah, and I have witnessed some of that. Has been party to it myself.
Well, 20 feet away, it's hard not to, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But all right, well, look, let's.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, let's wrap this
I'll
up.
bring some better biscuits.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Are you
right.
going to eat them or not?
Yeah. We'll record it in the afternoon next week. We'll have afternoon tea.
Lovely.
All right.
Well, actually, you know, I'm going to get onto proper cream teas, because the ones here are just dreadful.
And we'll talk about that next time. All right. Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.